Have you ever been lying in bed at like 2 in the morning trying to sleep, but your brain is just actively working against you?
Oh, I know this one, for sure.
Right. It's not even just worrying about, the meeting you have tomorrow. It's like it's building this perfect high-definition simulation of the absolute worst-case scenario.
And it feels so real in that moment.
It feels like your own nervous system is manufacturing threats, just pushing you into this spiral over stuff that hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah. And if you're stuck in that cycle, and let's be honest, pretty much everyone is at some point, I want to say this right up front, you're not broken.
That's so important to hear.
It really is. The anxiety, the worry, all those racing thoughts, that's not some kind of moral failure. The confusion you feel is just the result of being stuck in an ancient survival system.
One that hasn't gotten the latest software update for modern life.
Exactly. Your brain is actually doing its job. The problem is just that the volume level on that survival alarm is stuck way too high.
Okay, so if my brain is just trying to protect me, how do I tell it that it's overreacting without, dismissing that very real feeling of fear?
That is the absolute key. We have to teach that ancient system how to dial the volume back down. So our mission for this deep dive is to get into the science-backed tool strategies from physiology, from psychology, to give you those controls.
And help you reclaim the calm that's kind of buried under all that noise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's start with a really crucial perspective shift.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to frame anxiety as this purely negative thing we have to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
But our sources remind us it's actually a natural adaptive response.
It is supposed to be there. In its purest form, anxiety is just. It's attention paid to a potential threat. It's an essential response to stress and uncertainty. It only really becomes a problem when it's chronic.
When it gets in the way of daily life.
Right, when it interferes with your ability to navigate your day and make rational decisions.
So here's where we connect that biology to our modern worries. The fundamental mechanism of anxiety is your brain projecting an imagined future.
A very detailed, usually negative scenario.
And then telling your body to prepare for that potential disaster right now.
And this was fantastic engineering thousands of years ago. I mean, if you saw a rustle in the grass, your brain projected lion, and bam, your body flooded with adrenaline so you could run. Your survival depended on it.
But today, we're not avoiding lions. We're safe. You're in a comfortable room, you've got food, you've got shelter, but that ancient part of your brain is still wired to find all the places you might not be safe.
And when you trace it all back, I mean, any modern anxiety, whether it's your job, social stuff, health worries, the universal root, the message your body gets is simply, I'm not safe.
It all comes back to that one primal fear. Let's run through a few examples from the sources to show how the symptoms connect back to that core idea.
Okay, good idea. Take public speaking.
Oh, a classic.
A classic. You get the physical symptoms, right? Your voice gets tight, your stomach drops, your heart races. Those responses are driven by the fear of profound social rejection, of being judged or ridiculed. That's a modern form of social death, which your brain reads as a fundamental threat.
Or what about just social events in general? You find yourself, avoiding eye contact or overthinking a text message for half an hour.
Yeah, or just staying quiet when you have something to say.
Right. That paralysis is driven by the fear of rejection, of getting those negative judgments. The message is, I'm not safe socially, so I should just disappear.
And then there's the most intense version, which is health anxiety, the compulsive body scanning, the obsessive Googling of symptoms.
The endless doctor visits.
Exactly. That's the fear that something is fundamentally wrong inside you, the ultimate scenario where you won't stay alive. I mean, that is the absolute peak of the I'm not safe alarm.
So to define it, anxiety is a feeling of worry or fear, ranging from just mild unease to full-blown panic. And it shows up emotionally, worry, irritability, you can't concentrate, and physically.
And the physical part is what people usually notice first. The rapid heart rate, muscle tension, trembling.
Shortness of breath.
Yeah. And that physical reaction is actually what we need to tackle first. If we understand the mechanism, we can intervene right there.
Okay, so we just defined the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But if my emotions are running that high and I'm in that fight, flight, or freeze mode, where do I even begin? If I know the feeling is irrational, why can't I just think my way out of it?
Because when emotions are high, logic is low. This is a physiological fact. When anxiety hits, your body literally diverts blood flow away from your prefrontal cortex.
The logical, decision-making part of the brain.
That's the one. And it shunts that blood straight into the survival centers like the amygdala. You literally can't access your clear thinking when you're in a panic.
Yeah, it is such a critical point. We can't logic our way out of it because the logic department is temporarily closed.
It's closed for business. Exactly. So to start dealing with the anxious thoughts, you have to bring the body back to a baseline first. Back to homeostasis.
Which brings us to strategy 1.
Strategy 1.
Yeah.
Deep, intentional breathing.
It sounds so simple, almost deceptively so. But the mechanics are really powerful.
They're powerful because your breath is the one part of your autonomic nervous system you can consciously control. It's like a manual override switch.
So what's the technique?
Deep breathing directly activates the body's relaxation response, the parasympathetic nervous system. The technique that works best is focusing on a long, slow exhale. We recommend breathing in through your nose for 5 seconds.
A deep breath all the way into your belly.
Yep. And then, this is the key part, breathing out slowly for 10 seconds.
Twice as long on the exhale.
That long, slow exhale is what stimulates the vagus nerve. That nerve tells your entire system you are safe. You're sending a direct signal to the brain.
So you just repeat that,
Yeah.
5 seconds in, 10 seconds out, for a minute or two.
That's all it takes. You are physically forcing your heart rate to slow down. You're calming the body first, which creates the space you need for clarity.
Okay, so once the body is calm, then we can move to strategy 2, where we start to tackle the source of the noise.
The negative thought patterns themselves. This is called cognitive restructuring. It's a core technique from cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
And this is where we identify and then challenge those catastrophic thoughts that are fueling the anxiety.
Right. And step A is often the hardest part. Just identify the negative thought, because you usually feel the feeling first, right? That knot in your stomach, the rush of heat.
Yeah, the thought comes later, if at all.
So you have to learn to stop and ask yourself, what was I just thinking right now that caused this reaction?
You're saying I have to, interrupt the spiral and intentionally ask what I was thinking? That feels almost impossible when you're in it.
It takes practice, for sure.
Yeah.
But it starts by understanding that the feeling is a signal of a thought. We saw a great anecdote in our sources that illustrates this perfectly.
Okay.
A colleague felt the sudden flood of anxiety one morning, stomach twisting, the works, just standing in the kitchen making eggs.
Making eggs, the classic anxiety trigger.
Right. It felt totally random. But by tracing it back, he realized that 15 minutes earlier, he'd read a really harsh negative comment about his work online. So the thought wasn't, I'm anxious about these eggs. The thought was, I'm being publicly misunderstood, and therefore I am socially unsafe. The anxiety was delayed.
So you have to connect the dots backward. Once you identify that thought, I'm going to fail this presentation and everyone will think I'm an idiot, you move to step B.
Step B, challenge the thought. You have to evaluate it, poke holes in it. Ask yourself, what evidence actually supports this? What evidence contradicts it? What is the real likelihood of this happening?
And this is where the data is it's overwhelming. Researchers have studied this for decades, and the sources all confirm that about 85% of what we worry about never actually happens.
Just stop and think about that number for a second. 85%. Most of the energy you spend worrying is for a future that is pure fiction.
But let's look at the other 15%. Out of the worries that do materialize in some way, only a tiny fraction of those, about 3%, ever turn out as badly as we imagined.
So when you do the math on that, you're left with this stunning fact. 97% of the things that cause you anxiety either don't happen or they turn out better than you thought.
Wow. Knowing that statistic changes the entire conversation you're having with yourself.
It has to. If you know that 97% of your anxiety is based on flawed data, it makes it so much easier to get to step C.
Which is replace the thought.
Exactly. You substitute that invalidated catastrophic thought with something more balanced and realistic. So instead of, if I fail this, I'll be fired and ruined, you replace it with, I might stumble a bit, but I'm prepared. And even if I struggle, my career is stable and I'll learn from it.
Okay, so once we've calmed the body and started to rewire the mind, we can move to strategy 3, which takes it a step further through action.
Through exposure therapy.
Right.
Exposure therapy is all about teaching your brain, through direct experience, that you can tolerate discomfort. And crucially, that discomfort is not the same thing as danger.
You're resetting the alarm system. You're teaching your nervous system that the trigger isn't actually connected to a disaster.
Precisely. We often use physical examples for this, like someone with a fear of heights starting on a low stool, then a ladder, and so on. But for more general anxiety, we often use imaginal exposure.
Confronting the feared outcome in your mind.
Let's say you're terrified of submitting a report because you think your boss will criticize it publicly and you'll look foolish.
A very common fear.
A very common fear. Instead of letting that fear just lurk in the background, you sit down and you force yourself to visualize the entire worst-case scenario in detail.
So you actually picture your boss pointing out a mistake and everyone in the room laughing.
You sit with that image until the emotional charge starts to fade. And the key is you do it repeatedly. You run toward the fear, mentally, instead of away from it.
By doing that, you're flooding your system with the fear until it just realizes,
Wait a minute, I'm okay, this is just a thought. And even if it happened, I would still be fundamentally safe. The mind learns, oh, I survived that thought, and it loses its power.
So we have the in-the-moment tools, deep breathing, cognitive restructuring, and exposure therapy. But to really lower that baseline volume, we have to look at foundational lifestyle changes.
These are the things that stabilize your whole system so you're less reactive to begin with. And the first one is just non-negotiable. Regular physical activity.
And not just a light walk, right?
Mm.
The sources emphasize strenuous exercise.
Strenuous exercise. It reduces anxiety, it boosts endorphins, it improves your mood. And there's that great technique we talked about.
Yeah.
Use your 60-second rest during a workout to close your eyes and intentionally bring your heart rate down.
You're literally training the muscle of calming yourself down from a heightened state.
Exactly. Next up is diet and hydration. Focus on whole foods, sure, but more importantly, be aggressive about limiting the things that mimic anxiety symptoms.
You mean caffeine and sugar?
Caffeine and sugar. They are adrenaline and cortisol accelerators. If you're already anxious, they will push you right over the edge. And stay hydrated. Dehydration makes people measurably more anxious. Oh, and limit alcohol. It messes with your sleep and leads to rebound anxiety.
It's like your body's just responding to a lack of basic physical care.
Absolutely. Which brings us to sleep. Prioritizing sleep might be the single most critical strategy. Poor sleep drives up cortisol, messes with emotional regulation. It just makes anxiety so much worse.
A consistent schedule is key.
Paramount. And finally, a huge one for our time. Limit your screen time.
This one is getting harder and harder.
It is, but the data is so clear. People who spend more time in front of screens, doom scrolling, social media, whatever, have significantly higher levels of anxiety. You have to give your nervous system a chance to rest.
So to pull this all together, anxiety is a natural survival mechanism, but we are not slaves to its overreactions. We can control the volume.
We can. We can use the quick hit of deep breathing, the internal work of cognitive restructuring, remembering that 97% of worries are unfounded, and the behavioral conditioning of exposure therapy.
And if the root of all this is that ancient projection that I'm not safe,
And the data shows that the vast majority of those projected dangers are false alarms.
then maybe the greatest challenge of modern life is teaching our primal brain that feeling things like rejection or embarrassment or judgment is just discomfort. It's not actual mortal danger.
That is the ultimate goal, to distinguish between genuine danger and temporary uncomfortable feelings. That feeling of being misunderstood or judged, it's painful for sure, but it won't kill you.
So the final thought for you to take away is this. What specific perceived threat are you ready to expose yourself to this week, just to prove your own ultimate safety? Something to think about as you step out of that 2 a.m. spiral and into your day.